Let's make a material for a swimming pool. So you would probably think that swimming pool is a simple water, maybe with blue tint or something like that. Let's try it out and see how it looks. Okay, so I'm gonna create a new V-Ray material, set it up as a simple water. So let's say very dark diffuse, pretty reflective, and Fresnel reflections on, of course. So the IOR of water is something like 1.33, so that's what I'm going to use. And water is refractive, so something light, almost see-through, like this. And change the IOR to 1.33. Right, so that's a basic water material. Looks very boring right now. Okay, so if you look at the examples of some pool images, you will see that there are some ripples on the surface, some little waves. Okay, so this image is perfectly still, and it looks very bland and boring. So this one looks much better. Same for these. Okay, so we want to add some bump to this material to make it more realistic, or not realistic, more interesting. Okay, another thing you might want to enable is affect shadows option here in the refract section. This will allow the light to go through our material and illuminate everything below it. Okay, like that. So now you will notice that the water almost disappears. It's very hard to see and it looks just basic gray or transparent. So that's why pools usually have these blue tiles inside, blue tiles on the walls and on the floor. So we're gonna quickly set up a blue tile material. Let's name it blue tiles. You can use a 3D Max built-in procedural tiles map here. It's perfect for this occasion. Okay, I'm gonna drag and drop. Fix the mapping. Alright. So for tiles, stack bond works just fine. You can try different presets, but for pool it's usually perfectly aligned like this. So you leave it at stack bond and go down to advanced controls. Right, so now we want to set up our colors, something blue. And add some variation to color and fade. Maybe a bit more saturated, like this. Right, and the seams are usually maybe white. So let's set it at white to 30. And increase the count of the tiles. Let's try 50 by 50. And more. 100 by 100. And reduce the seams. Okay. See how it looks. It's a bit too large, and the seams are a bit too large as well. Let's try 150 by 150. Okay, now let's increase the tiling. Looks like 100 is the maximum amount possible here. Okay, so the tile size is pretty good. Maybe let's make them darker, more saturated, and make the gap a bit smaller. Just experiment with the colors and the values until you get something you like. Right, I think this is okay. Now we just need to set up the bump map here. Okay, let's reduce the blurring. And copy the same map to the bump slot. Right, and in the bump slot we're going to reduce the color variance to 0, fade variance to 0 as well, so make all the tiles even, and change the color to medium gray. And for the seams we want to change the color to black to bring them in. Okay, maybe let's reduce the blurring a bit more. And let's see how that looks. I think that's fine. And copy the map to the reflect slot. I'm going to make it a bit darker. Increase the blur. And reduce the glossiness to, let's say, 0.8. Right. So I think this should be fine. So a nice shiny tile material. Okay, now that we have a good background for our water, we can proceed and add some bump to it. Okay, maybe I'm gonna make it a bit darker still. Right, that's nice. And let's move to the water material. Okay, so here it is. And we need to set up a bump map. So you have many options here. You can use a custom painted texture, you can use some procedural maps from 3D Max. I like to use either the noise map or the waves map. I'm going to show you both of them. So let's start with the waves. With the default settings it looks like this. You can see that the waves are much too large. It doesn't look too realistic. So what we need to do is reduce the wavelength. Okay, first let's reduce the radius to 1000, and then let's reduce the wavelength to, let's say, 20 minimum and 50 maximum. Let's see how that looks. Okay, it's still a bit too large. Let's reduce it even further. Let's try 20 maximum and let's say 4 minimum. Looks a bit better. But I think it's still a bit too large. I think the wave rate is too much. Let's try 250 here to make the waves rounder. Right, so I think this is okay. Maybe the waves are a bit too strong. Let's make them a bit weaker. Let's try 15. Okay. Looks better. Let's try bringing the minimum up a bit to 8 and bringing this one down to 12. So experiment with these values until you find the look that you like. You can get all sorts of results from this. Right. If you want a more realistic render, you can enable caustics in the V-Ray settings. And it should give you a lot more realistic result for pool. It takes more time, but it's pretty good. Okay, so these waves look a bit unnatural in this case. Maybe let's try using a noise map here instead of waves. Okay, so let's change the waves to noise. I'm gonna discard the old map, reduce the size, maybe 20 for starters. Let's see how that looks. Alright, pretty nice. Maybe the bump is too strong. You can also mix together two bump maps. For example, I'm going to change my noise to mix, keep old map as submap, copy, paste, and reduce the second noise size to, let's say, 5. Right. Change the phase a bit and blend at 50. So now we should have some larger ripples and some smaller ones as well. Okay, maybe less of the small ones and more of the large ones. 15 here. And that's the basic idea how you create a waterfall pool. You can experiment with different noise values or with the waves, depending on what you want to achieve.